So, hi, Lindsay.
Hey, Josh.
Lindsay, what is your role? What do you do, and for whom do you work?
Sure. So I am the Vice President of People at LOGE Camps.
Lodge camps. What's lodge camps?
LOGE Camps is a new take in hospitality. Basically, we have uh, destination locations in all sorts of amazing recreation towns, currently around the Pacific Northwest in Colorado, but soon coming to a town near you. So we're a hospitality company that's really built around a concept of the community, and Lodge stands for Live Outside, Go Explore. So obviously, our locations are especially designed to give folks an experience to be well connected with the outdoor lands that they love to recreate in.
Beautiful, excellent.
Yeah.
And you and I have known each other for a long time, and
Oh, way, way back,
way,
way
way
back.
back, and have been talking about culture things for a long time. And so you recently told me about a way that you have started to, or your organization has started to really activate its culture through a series of a recognition program. And I found it really compelling because it combines the idea of values activated through recognition, but also the thing that is the reward is also a cue, which is, kind of getting a few of the different pieces of the components of culture from Great Monday
Knocking them all out. Yeah,
built
absolutely.
together. And I thought this was an interesting, really compelling case study in like what a fully integrated culture system looks like. And so I was hoping that we could have a quick conversation. You can tell us a little bit about what you've been doing.
Sure. So, Josh, you know that one of the things that we bonded over was this concept that culture and brand should be copacetic, that they should work really well together. And so, one of the reasons that I came on board really early here at Lodge was as a lifestyle brand and as a service oriented business, they understood that culture was going to be hyper important to building a sustainable brand. That really what keeps people coming back to a hospitality experience like what we want to offer is going to be the great interactions that they have with the staff on property. And so I came in really early to help them design and build out their purpose and values as a company. Lodge is in terms of hospitality, a very young startup. We've been around for about 3 years now. And so one of my first assignments when I came aboard a year ago was to build out that culture platform. Once we had a really solid sort of groundwork in place with those purpose and values, the challenge becomes how do you roll that out? How do you get people legitimately engaged? And quickly, as a company with 5 remote locations, make sure that your frontline staff really understand what it means to live those values every day.
Before we get into that, are you able to tell us what the values are? So we can
Yes,
have a little anchor point.
yes, and I don't have this in front of me, so this is like a pop quiz. This is great. As a hospitality company, our first value is we welcome everyone. That one's a little self-explanatory in that that's what you do in hospitality. You welcome guests.
That's your job.
That's why we're here. We're here to welcome you to a fun new experience. We've expanded on that and also taken that as an ethos in terms of diversity, inclusion, and equity. Rather than set ourselves apart, especially in the outdoor industry, as you have to have climbed all, the 7 highest peaks in all the continents everywhere, or you have to like pow super hard every day. We've created an experience at Lodge Camps that's accessible to anyone who's interested in getting into the outdoors. In fact, we see a real anchor of our product being how easy we make it to get into the great outdoors. So we welcome everyone also speaks to that ethos of making sure that everybody can have a great time and share in all that we love about the outdoors. Our second, there's 7 of them. So our second value is we make connections. I talked a little bit about this earlier, but Lodge Camps really aspires to be a place where people don't spend the entire night holed up in their hotel room watching Netflix. Really, the way that we build our properties and add amenities like a coffee bar, a place to grab beer, fire pits, communal outdoor kitchens, campsites. We do live music and have stages on a lot of our properties. It's all designed around making sure that people can have a sense of community when they come and stay at a lodge camps. And so we, as a value, take a responsibility to actually make those connections, whether it's with our fellow crew members, with our guests, with folks that are just coming on site to have a beer. We really strive to amplify those connections. In addition, that value also speaks to really thinking through patterns and looking for opportunities, whether it's to connect to people, or if you happen to be in accounting, to find a way to make it easier for one of our sites to handle one of their accounting problems. So we make connections as our second value. Next up are kind of some of our operational pillars. So our third value is we scout, align, and commit. And this
Scout,
is
align, and commit. So like, is that an outdoorsy term?
It is. Look at you picking up on the cues already. It's great. But you can use this example in skiing or in kayaking, but when you face a giant rapid, you don't just like throw your hands up and say, well, I'll get through it somehow. You actually take the time, you get over to the side of the river, you take a look at what you're about to face.
I have to pause. I think I'm getting kicked out of the room.
Oh no.
So give me a second. Zoom. As if nothing just happened.
Nothing changed. And the background isn't completely different behind you. So scout, align, and commit is about the way that we pause, take a moment when we face a big problem to look at the different angles, think about the different potential ways to resolve the problem, get input from some other folks, maybe an expert who's faced that problem before, maybe somebody who's got a fresh new idea. At the end of the day, the value ends with committing. Once we've chosen our way through the problem, everybody's on board, everybody's committing. Our fourth value is we decide with data. So as a hospitality company, it would really be easy for us to very quickly just kind of go with the qualitative from our gut decision-making about the right way to drive the company forward. So we wanted very early on in the company's history to make sure that any decisions we make as a company, we are challenging ourselves to back that up with some hardcore data. And as we grow and scale Lodge, that we really think about data and accessibility data as a way of showing us through some of the wicked problems that we're going to face. Let's see, that's 4. Our fifth value is we have good times to share good times. This is a really fun one. Again, we're a hospitality company, and from a guest service standpoint, we understand that we can only give as good of service as we get in return. We can only know what it means to show somebody a really great time in the outdoors if we take the time to do that for ourselves. Again, as a startup, it would be really easy for us to spin out, get way too worked up on trying to scale a business and forget the cornerstone of why we're here in the first place, which is that people come to a place like Lodge Camps, they want to have a good time. So this is a value that helps remind us to stay grounded in that and to have a little fun as we're working. Our sixth value is we treat our mother well. You know, as a company who depends on access to amazing outdoor spaces, we do take a responsibility to give a little bit back in that space. We recognize that folks are coming to our sites because they get access to these public lands that we all share. And so holding ourselves accountable to that and not just taking for granted that we have access to shared public spaces is something that's core to who we are. And then our final value, our seventh, is we stoke what's next. And from a product standpoint, Lodge Camps is known for going in to towns that are kind of tertiary recreation cities. We're not going into the Aspens and the Squaw Valleys of the world. We're going into places like Westport, Washington, which is a surf town on the Washington coast, or Mount Shasta, California, which is a great mountain town, but sometimes lost in the shadow of places like Tahoe. We find maybe forgotten or neglected properties in those spaces. We renovate them into these really epic community-based places to stay. And that's the value that we bring to these communities. So when we talk about stoking what's next, it's really about recognizing value from something that might be neglected or forgotten, and bringing our energy and enthusiasm, and making them awesome. So that's our final value.
So, and then once you establish your values, that's it. It just happens. Everybody just goes, great. Now that you have values,
Yeah.
you're acting that way.
Instantly, behaviors change, align perfectly with what's on brand, and all is well in this magical land.
Right.
Nope, not at all. So we spent a lot of time and energy going through what you would consider maybe a traditional rollout of purpose and values. We created a really amazing book that outlined not only what the purpose and values were and what the definitions were, but also some checklists on how to make sure that you were actually living the values, which was well received, and that was really excited. We created a lot of cues. We did posters for each of our 5 locations. We did a road show. We had an element of each one of our all company meetings where we talked through the values and list some stories from that happened in real time. But as the kind of big launch tapered off, what we realized is that in order to make sure that the impact of the values was sustainable, we needed a program where it wasn't being pushed top down, that it was actually existing peer-to-peer. And that's where this recognition program comes in. So I actually brought together a group of stakeholders, some folks at each level of the company that really seemed to naturally embody a lot of our values. And we had a good old-fashioned brainstorm about, what would be relevant and impactful. Again, at LOGE Camps, you've got
what would be relevant and impactful? What are you
as a recognition program? So
okay. In what way is recognizing LOGE employees effective?
Exactly. Values can sometimes be esoteric or theoretical, and we wanted to make sure, knowing the busy day-to-day lives, and that the majority of the folks that work on our site are frontline employees, we wanted to make sure we weren't talking in theoretical ways about how every third sentence out of one of our employees' mouths is going to be espousing the wonderful values in this magical land. We wanted it to reflect the realities of, if you're a housekeeper, how often are you interacting with guests? How often is it going to be seen that you're representing these values? How do we make sure that folks can really feel like it's not just icing on the cake, but something that's meaningful and relevant? And so, again, we brought those cultural stakeholders together, had some good conversations, and I cannot take credit for this idea whatsoever, and that pleases me very much. But, we had talked a lot about, we are a hospitality company. We're fairly casual, but folks still need to wear some semblance of lodge gear when they come to work, because they need to be identifiable from our guests and be able to be stopped and asked questions. So we talked a little bit about, we've already got a bunch of t-shirts. Nobody needs another lodge t-shirt. We've already got, when we did the original values launch, we did a bandana, a custom designed bandana that had all our lodges spelled out on it. So we already had that in place. So we were like, what's fun, a little quirky, very lodge, but would still be relevant? And somebody in the group came up with the concept of socks. Everybody loves socks. And custom designed socks are frankly pretty hot right now, if you check out the interwebs. So we did a little investigating, and they're actually not really expensive. And they're pretty, we could custom build designs, and it was just pretty hilarious. It was very us, it's not just another water bottle or coffee cup or notebook that had the values on them. A custom designed pair of socks, that's pretty crazy. Perfect. And so we ended up creating a program where we custom designed a pair of socks for each one of our 7 values using the kind of brand identity that we created for the values program. and work with a manufacturer to get those made up. Then we created a nomination form where anybody can go into a really easy Google form online, enter a couple of sentences about how they saw one of their coworkers, one of their fellow crew members embodying one of the Lodge values. It's all tabulated. At the end of each month, the general manager at each site gets to pick one nominee from each of the 7 values, and that person is awarded with recognition at the site meeting that particular month, but also with a certificate and the value sock that they represented. So if somebody went above and beyond and figured out a whole new way to recycle glass on property, and were nominated under the We Treat Our Mother Well value, if they were chosen for that month, they get the specially designed We Treat Our Mother Well socks that have a really crazy earth image on them, really loud and bright and fantastic. And now they can wear those socks with pride for the rest of the time they're with Lodge.
So let me repeat back to make sure I understand. So nominations occur peer-to-peer.
Correct.
Can managers nominate their direct reports?
They can, but it's in the spirit of peer-to-peer. So it shouldn't be that like this person had amazing performance and they knocked it out of the park. Again, it should be kind of real time. I spotted them doing this thing and I thought it was rad. Maybe the manager was the only one around. We also work closely with the managers to remind them that they shouldn't be the only people.
Yeah.
That it really is a peer-to-peer based plan, and to think of their nominations as just another peer-to-peer nomination.
When you say locations, we're talking about lodge camps.
Correct.
Okay, and your office, what about your like home office? Do you guys have HQ and you do that there too?
We do. We call our HQ our community support center, and we kind of operate as our own little site when it comes to this program. So we have 14 people based at our community support center here in North Bend, Washington, and then we have currently 5 active sites that are lodge camps. So each of the 5 sites and CSC run their own nomination pools, if that makes sense.
It does.
The managers of those sites can choose one winner for each of the values each month. If nobody is nominated for Decide with Data for that month, no harm, no foul, you just don't award it that month. But up to one winner for each of the 7 values at each site each month. Mm-hmm. And we got really excited about that, but then we realized like it's a whole line of custom designed socks. Of course, folks are going to try to shoot the moon and go after all of them. What should happen if you are able to be nominated and over the course of your time with Lodge, earn a pair of socks for each of the values?
All 7 pair custom designed socks.
Right? You know, folks are going to want to be into that.
Royal
what are they going to do?
It's the Royal Flush.
The Royal Flush. And so what we decided on was a custom designed pair of Lodge Value shoes.
What?
What?
It just blew my mind. What are you talking about?
Right? If you got all those socks, you got to have a pair of shoes to wear them with. So that will be waiting for anybody who is so like dialed into living the Lodge values that they are awarded all 7 socks.
That's amazing. So you'll design it when the first person achieves it.
Oh, it's designed. Like we're going for it. We're already there. It will be produced when there's a correct shoe size. Once.
All right. Okay.
Yes.
Is it, are they Vans? Are they, what is it? What's the New Balance?
As it happens, just based on kind of our brand and the way that our folks work, Vans are pretty popular shoe choices anyway. And finding a company where it was pretty easy to custom design a pair of shoes.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Vans came out a winner. So that's what it'll be like.
That is so good. All right, so you're gonna get me images of all these things.
I know how much you love shoes.
I love shoes.
Absolutely.
I love shoes. I want all the images. I'm gonna put them up with the article. It's gonna be great.
Definitely.
Awesome. Is there anything else that you want to share that we haven't talked about this program? I guess. Yeah, I'll just ask that.
Yeah, one of the things that I really loved about it is that we spent the time and energy in the brainstorming process to come up with something that wasn't kind of cursory or a gimme, right? Like when it comes to cues, you and I have had some really good conversations about this, but it's really easy to stick with the t-shirt, the coffee mug, the water bottle. Right, those are the old standbys, and they have a place, don't get me wrong, but for a program like this, where we really wanted to add that relevancy factor, I love that the team was able to come up with something that is both kind of on brand for us, bright, crazy, lodge style, but that also is useful, right? If you're a frontline employee and you are, potentially this is your job, part-time job while you're in college or something like that. Like, honestly, having extra socks to be able to wear to work is a practical thing. It's pragmatic, right? It's not the worst. And have them be fun and a little crazy is so much more the better. So I liked that it's not just something that, sits on a shelf and wouldn't ever be considered or touched or anything like that, that they came up with something that was pragmatic, useful, and a little fun to boot. I also really loved and felt it was really important that we got out of the gate really early with something where recognizing how the values come to life day to day doesn't only exist in the manager realm or in the people team realm or in the executive team realm, that this is a way to really get the culture out of the dictates, as it were, of the decision makers and really celebrated peer-to-peer with the crew member population at large.
Right. So in my book, Great Mondays, the recognition 2x2, there's small group, peer-to-peer.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I feel like this is. Although there's a little bit of the award comes from, I think you said the manager actually gives the award. So there's kind of an acknowledgement.
Correct. So, but it's
so
in the
you nominated me, but then the manager chooses me and says, "Here's your socks, Josh."
Correct. And that's mainly because we anticipate, and what we've seen so far is just multiple nominations for each value.
Yeah. No, I like that there's kind of like two aspects to it.
Yeah.
It's like driven by the peer-to-peer, but then acknowledged by the manager. So there's actually this kind of crossover. Now, on the other side of the 2x2 is peer-to-peer or manager-to-peer large group. So my question to you is, are you going to maybe like add together all of the nominations for the whole year across all the sites and do like a big one? Like, are you thinking about anything like that, company-wide?
Potentially. Probably more keenly aligned to a series of leadership awards we're going to do. So our sites are remote, right? We have lodge camps in places like Breckenridge, Colorado, Mount Shasta. Those teams don't necessarily get a chance to interact on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
Our first goal was to do the more, to your point, the small group, making sure that teams at each site have an opportunity to recognize the folks they work with each day. As we continue to grow and scale, we hope to put in place a leadership program. And I think what we will do as part of that leadership recognition program is look for leaders within the values. So if somebody has an amazing track record for a particular value, we treat our mother well, they're really active in our stewardship, employee action committees, things like that. There'd be an opportunity to be recognized for a value as a leader throughout the company.
Great.
Yeah.
That's great. I'm so excited. Well, I really appreciate you telling me about this, having you doing it, and then having this chance to chat with you about it. It's really great.
Yeah, it was really fun program to design. And again, I don't know that we would have thought through all the angles if it weren't for reading through Great Mondays and thinking about the culture code and all that. But yeah, really excited to see how this worked out.
Beautiful. All right, Lindsay, you're VP or head of people at Lodge?
VP of people, yeah.
VP of people, the VPP of people, Lindsay Wolff-Logsdon. Thank you, Lindsay.
Thanks, Josh.
Appreciate it.